I'm sitting with one of those people. It's very few people that you sit and you'd like, I'd love to have a conversation with this person. I'd love to talk to them. But also, the one thing I do know is an hour is not enough to have the conversations I want to have with them, because there's so many of them. I reread the book over the last month or so. I mean, over the last 2 weeks, possibly. The Curse of Teko Modise. And in reading that, I thought, there's so many answers I need here. There's so many things that I want plugged in. And today is going to begin to do that. But as we're on this radio station for the next 10 years, in 2 years from now, I'd love to take another leaf of Teko Modise's story. In 5 years from now, I'd still like to have him here and say, hey, what about this? Because there's so much to this man. There's so much to what he's given to football. There's so much to what he did in South African homes that you and I were sitting at. The feeling that we get when we see our father and we share memories are because of people like him, and him in particular. So today on Throwback Thursday, we go back and we tell the story of Teko Modise, and we then cut it and come to now, because hey, Askabuyelo mo studio, Askabuyelo. Let's take a break. When we come back on the other side, Donna's here, the General is here. I can't think of many more, but there's so many of those names. An hour with Teko Modise. It's 14 after the hour 6 on the Mighty Metro FM. It's Throwback Thursday, and I'm reminded of our conversation last week Thursday with Mum Hazel, who was in studio, known as Special Hazel Kumete. She came to tell us the story of the first black woman or child then to play in an interracially combined netball team in South Africa. She was the first black person to get a ball passed to her by a white person. What a fascinating story. Absolutely incredible. Loved every second of it. Today, the story is one that every South African thinks they know. They think they're part of it. Very few people in life transcend what they do. They go beyond that. Dr. Khumalo was one such person. Whether you knew football or not, you knew Dr. Khumalo. Many might say Jomosono was the same. Dingan Tobela was the same. Whether you knew and followed boxing, but you knew the figure, Dingan Tobela. Teko Modise in this generation was that. Kids cut their hair to look like Teko. They actually called it Teko. You know, girls who don't follow, women who don't follow football knew who Teko Modise was. And today he sits across from me to begin just a page of a book that should be an encyclopedia's worth of reading. Donna, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Which nickname sticks with you? Because Donna Doni, there's General, there's which one is yours? Which one do you find synergy with?
I think the General, it's more corporate. Donna, Donna, it's an everyday use.
So that's the one.
Yeah, I think that's the one most people actually use.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to have you here, and I hope I didn't scare you because it was such an intro there.
I'm happy to be here.
Listen, Metro FM listeners love a good story, and I think yours is the one. Tell me about writing a book. When you decided I want to tell my story, what about your story did you think needs to be known, heard? Why did you write a book?
I think at the time when I was approached firstly by a company that wanted to do a documentary at the time. And I wasn't, I didn't buy into doing a documentary at the time, but I knew that I wanted to tell my story. The reason behind it was I felt like I was misunderstood, and there was a lot of things that were said about me, but I never had a voice. You know, in football, when you're still playing, normally we don't have a voice to actually speak for yourself. I wouldn't be able to hold on a press conference and say, hey, but that's not the truth, that's a lie. So I wanted to tell my side of the story. And also at the time, I felt like everybody thought that I've got things figured out, because I'm Teko Modise, therefore you'll figure it out, and not understanding the struggles that I was dealing with. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to write a book, to actually tell the other one, the next one that was maybe in the position to become a superstar, as to what comes with being a superstar. Because when I became one, nobody actually set me down, nobody actually called me to tell me, look out for this and this and this. And for me, it was like, okay, I feel like I'm in this position by the grace of God, so I might as well share the story that I have, not knowing how many people can that story inspire.
And there were very few people who've been in your position, because in your era it was you, right?
Yeah.
And maybe in an era before, like I said, at Dr. Khumalo, maybe at Teko Modise, that have experienced superstardom.
Yeah.
Did you feel like that? Did you feel like you, in the way that the public were perceiving you, in the way that people were reacting to you outside of the field? Did you feel like you were different?
Yeah, I mean, it also made me start moving differently. You know, I felt like people think that I can't do no wrong. And I remember as well, while playing for Orlando Pirates, you're losing a game. Just to go by bread becomes a problem because you get to be asked so many questions that I don't even answers for. And also because then what also didn't help was I was doing so many campaigns as well about being a role model, being a superstar. So therefore, there's this...
You were the poster boy.
Yeah, there's this perfect
football
picture that is painted, so I need to leave that way. And I also think it changed my personality a lot, being in that position, because I never actually got to enjoy the superstardom that everybody thought that I was enjoying.
And you make mention of Pirates and all of that. And when I read the book, 27th of January 2011, stuck out with me. And I wondered over and over and over again. And every time I get to that chapter, in my mind, I wonder, do you remember what happened on that day?
Please remind me.
I didn't think you would. It is the day where you say you wore a ridiculous suit. Do you remember?
Yeah. I remember that day.
Because that was the day, and I don't remember another. I remember Jimmy Dow called a press conference when he retired, right?
Yeah.
To say he was retiring, but I don't remember ever there being a press conference to announce a player leaving.
Yeah, it has never been done before.
It was done for you.
Yeah.
And as I read through your words in the book, you spoke about the fact that you sat there and said nothing. The whole press conference ran, and then, you said your goodbyes. The chairman ran the press conference, said your goodbyes, and you left. Even afterwards, and journalists were like, hey, Tico, you couldn't say anything.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, if I could take you back to that moment and give you an opportunity to actually say something, what does Teko, who's leaving Orlando Pirates, especially now, I mean, you're grown now, you've got retrospect, you've got a lot in you. What does Teko say in that press conference?
I'll possibly say, thank the fans, because I think I was nothing at Orlando Pirates without the fans, and I never had an opportunity to say goodbye to them. And I also feel like, at the time when I was leaving, the fans didn't understand how all of a sudden I wanted to leave, because none of them understood the issues that I had, because everybody was thinking the biggest issue that I have is just me wanting to leave overseas.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of issues that I was dealing with. And also it was not easy to play for Orlando Pirates at the time because of how I was positioned. I was very isolated within the team. Of course, on the field of play it looks good, but personally I was isolated.
What does that mean?
In a sense that your teammates look at you as an opponent. They don't look at you as a teammate. They thinking you think you're better than them. You think you this and this, so therefore we can speak to him. So it positioned me in a different way where I felt like going to training became a problem because you can't socialize with the guys that you're going to training with.
Really?
Yeah. So even if when you speak football, people overreact because we're not close, we're not talking, we're not friends, we're not teammates. We're only teammates because we wear the same uniform. So, for instance, in the game of football, especially being the position that I was playing, especially being the leader that I was at Orlando Pirates, when giving an information, somebody reacts. And I could realize that the reason why they're reacting is because they're so mad at me for something that I didn't know well. So it becomes one of those issues where you get so isolated. So I feel like when I left Orlando Pirates, there's so many things that I could have said. Actually,
I want you to hold it there because I want that thank you speech that they never got. I think it's right that we give the fans that and we give you an opportunity to finally say that because I've wondered about it for years. I can only imagine how the Orlando Pirates faithfuls feel. So take a minute to think about it. Let's take a quick break. We're sitting alongside alongside one of the GOATs to have ever done it. And we've gone back to the 27th of January 2011, a press conference. I saw it with Lionel Messi. I didn't even see it with Ronaldo when he was leaving Barcelona. In South Africa, I've only ever seen it once. When Teko Modise left Orlando Pirates, it was a matter of national importance. Not only for Orlando Pirates fans, but for football fans and the community at large. He sat there at a press conference wearing what did you call that suit?
It was a ridiculous suit.
And he didn't get an opportunity. And I wanted one. I wanted a reason. I wanted to hear him. Here he is. Teko, the mic is in front of you. Mm-hmm. You're back on that seat in 2011 on the 27th of January. The chairman has spoken and it said thank you. What does Teko say?
I think I would say first of all, thank the chairman himself for giving me, first of all, the opportunity to play for such a big club, Orlando Pirates, and also the trust that he had in me. There's so many meetings that we had throughout my career at Orlando Pirates that people didn't know. I just also want to thank him for that, and also thank the fans as well for helping me to become a better player than I was. And as much as the responsibility is something that I wasn't looking forward to, but they made me a better player. They built my character. And to my teammates as well, I just want to maybe ask for forgiveness if I was acting out some type of way because of the pressures. And I'm the person that likes to win. I don't like playing for fun. And I was at the Orlando Pirates specifically to try and win things for the team. That's why the meetings were happening behind closed doors, to help the team to win. And I felt like some of the guys that were just joyriding the club, they were not there to win stuff for the club. And if I came a little bit hard, I just wanted to apologize. And I think that if we only became friends, we would have actually understood the type of person that I am. And yeah, I think those are on all the relationships that I built with Orlando Pirates. I mean, I am sitting right here today because of the platform that Orlando Pirates has given me, and I'll never take that for granted.
Is there any part or anything Orlando Pirates that you would redo or undo if you could? Yeah,
I think the manner that I tackled the overseas move, I think I could have done better. But also, here's the problem as well. Like, because I said I was so isolated, when that issue came up, nobody spoke to me like a grown up. And when I remember as well, when going to the offices of Orlando Pirates, trying to have a conversation with the person that brought me into the team, which is the chairman himself, because that's the only person at that time that I trusted. And I never got that opportunity. And for me, I think that's one thing that actually hurt me the most instead of not going overseas. It's just that opportunity to have this conversation with a person that I know that trusts me so much. I wasn't in a space to abandon the team. I wanted to play for the team, but this is an opportunity. I was actually willing as well to sign a contract that says, when I come back to South Africa, whatever happens, I'll come back and play for Orlando Pirates. That's how much I was invested in playing for the team. And I think that's one thing that actually but I feel like if I could have handled it better, but also being very emotional and seeing an opportunity as well, I think there's a lot of things that could have been dealt with better. Maybe the outcome would have been different.
How much of the overseas thing still eats you up now? How much of that do you look back and say, geez, maybe I shoulda, woulda, coulda? Do you still think about it at all?
The only time I think about it is now the Saudi Arabia thing. I'm like, came at the wrong time. Why?
Because this is lately.
Bruh, it came at the wrong time. But I think it did affect me a lot until I actually started winning stuff with Sundowns, then started fading away. Because also the pressure that I had playing for national team, 80% of the national team players at the time were overseas based players. And it wasn't nice having the same conversation with them. You're Steven Pienaar, Brady McCarthy, and all those guys still asking the same question, why are you still playing local? And at that also you start questioning yourself. And you start also believing that I actually have the qualities to play overseas. I shouldn't be here. And that was one of those most difficult situations whenever I go to the national team.
You speak of difficulty. I can imagine the difficulty of going to training, Kilo Pasa Teko, when I arrived, Kapolo. Afikile ka X6M or ka Aston Martin, M3, M4, Kadit, Range Rover, the 135. You know what I mean? Like, there was a fleet.
Yeah.
I mean, this was not all at one time, of course. This was spread through your career. But I can imagine the animosity and, I don't want to say jealousy, but the others looking at you and you know, maybe wanting a little bit of that as well. I can imagine that didn't help you either.
Yeah, but for me, Andile, it's not a problem to want what I have, but don't ever think that I don't deserve having what I have. So that was the problem. I don't mind because we're all getting inspired and be inspired by so many people around us. I came to Orlando Pirates to do the same job as any other player that is employed for Orlando Pirates. So therefore, we're not enemies, we're teammates. We're supposed to be in the same page on every game that we play. If you feel, okay, Sharp, maybe this guy is being overpaid, or why is he driving this car? I need to drive that car. Yeah, but that you need to go to the office and fix with it and have a conversation. Like, for instance, when I joined Orlando Pirates, there was no player that was using a different branded boots. I was the only one that was allowed to use. At the time, I was sponsored by Nike. And after that, maybe a season later, that's when your Monip started coming in with different sponsors. But at the time, there's so many barriers that were broken because of me. And those are type of things that in culture for Orlando Pirates, at the time, they were not they were not allowed to happen. If you're not playing with Adidas, it's one of those situations. You can count them. Probably maybe 5 of us that were allowed to use a different brand. So those type of things, when I come into the team, it's not like when I got to Orlando Pirates, that's when I started getting those things. When I come with that car that you mentioned, it's not like when I got to Orlando Pirates, then I got those things. It's just because Super Sport, we had a great team. And maybe also the challenge was because Super Sport, we had this team that we behaved like a family. Maybe all of us, because we're the same age. Then it would come to Orlando Pirates. That was a culture shock.
I was about to say, you're one of the first members of that it was such a brilliant young team, and you all were at the same place in life, really.
Yeah, we were. And all of us, we had the similar goal, was to play for the national team because the 2010 was coming. So that was the aim. All of us wanted to perform, whether for Super Sport, for different teams, but all of us wanted to see ourselves there, even though we didn't know how to get ourselves there, because we know that in South Africa, level of consistency, it's very, very difficult, but we wanted to see ourselves. And that's the same drive that I did as well when I got to Orlando Pirates. That's why I started behaving differently, because I wanted to play to win. I wanted to still be part of the national team. And also because I got into the national team very early. And I realized as well, 80% of the Majita Lalanda, so they overseas based. So in my mind, I'm thinking, come 2010, still will be 80% based overseas players. So I need to find myself in Atlanta. Yeah, so that's when I started playing like that, and I started behaving that way.
There's so much in what you've just said, but I don't even want to go there, because there's so much that we need to speak about, particularly with what's going on with you now. But that was the one thing that I had wondered as far as your Orlando Pirates story is concerned. And I think even in this, there's still so much to it. But as we close that, not close it, but as we just push the door for another time, another day, do you consider yourself an Orlando Pirates legend?
I've been asked this question a lot.
I'll tell you why, because I do a lot of work, and it's no secret, I've never hidden it with Sundowns, and you've seen me do the stuff that we do, the Miss Sundowns, and with the fans, and I interact with them a lot. And to them, you're a Sundowns legend.
Yeah.
They speak of Teko, and I mean, obviously the star, the things that came in that era.
Yeah.
And it was that Pizzo era as well, which was, some of the greatest times in South African football we've seen. And they claim you as their own.
And I think they've got the right.
Because I watch Sundowns Pirates legends play all the time.
Yeah.
I've never seen you there.
I don't think I'll get an invite anytime soon. Andile, I get a lot of that question, and I still say that I'd have no problem as to how fans position me, because I think the country got to know who Teko Modise was because of Orlando Pirates. And I can safely say when I moved to Mamelodi Sundowns, I played differently than I was when I was playing for Orlando Pirates. So those are two different personalities, two different players. So therefore, every team has a right to claim me as their legend, because I played differently for both teams. If you look
you'd accept both?
Yeah, I could have accepted. I would, trust me, because it's not like Orlando Pirates, I didn't try to win things. I lost so many things in the final, and I got to Mamelodi Sundowns as well. Luckily, I started winning things, and that's when I started tasting the glory, especially from the team perspective, not just from an individual's place. And it changed the person that I am. And also the fame that Mamelodi Sundowns gave me versus the fame that Orlando Pirates was totally different. Because at Mamelodi Sundowns, I knew exactly now how to maneuver within the fame that I had. But it also became so difficult as well to be accepted by Mamelodi Sundowns fans just from Orlando Pirates, because Mamelodi Sundowns fans are not just fans in jail for the sake of being fans. They know football. So I needed to prove to them that I actually wanted to play for the team, because also at that time when I arrived at Mamelodi Sundowns, there was this transition, and there was this talks around the team that you're just buying expensive players, they're not here to deliver season after they're gone. So in that moment, believe in me, when I went to sign the contract with Mamelodi Sundowns, on the same day, there were fans that were boycotting outside, wanting the coach to leave.
Ian Gorowa, I think it was.
No, before Ian Gorowa. I don't remember the coach, who it was. And then Ian Gorowa took over.
So it could have been Niskins. Niskins
came after Gorowa.
Yeah. I can't remember, it was before Gorowa.
Yeah, so that coach... So now the gates were closed. They opened for me to come in, go sign the contract, and then the gates were closed. After signing the contract, I'm expected to leave. I'm just done signing the contract, so let me leave. The team is playing on Saturday. They said, now that you're part of the team, you're not leaving, you also need to you be part of this. And then I was kept, lack of a better word, hostage by the fans. So therefore, they also saw me as part of the problem. that was actually happening at Mamelodi Sundowns. So I needed to prove myself, not only to the fans, to the players themselves, because you get into the team, you look at the training field, you've got Surprise Moriri, that you know very well what he has done for this club. So you need to actually now learn and prove to yourself and prove to them to be able to accept you. And it was a challenge that I took on.
When you got to Sundowns that first season, because obviously the coach then left and Ncube was the first to take over.
Yeah.
And I read that and I wanted to know, is there things between this, Tico? Because then you say, I think there were 5 games to go to win the league.
Yeah.
You guys needed 6 points in order to do it.
Yes, sir.
And you had a team very capable of doing it. But it just didn't go that way.
I was so mad.
Because of things that the coach was doing.
Yeah.
The coach was playing everyone out of position.
Yeah.
The coach was sitting the likes of you on the bench when you shouldn't be.
The Pelembes.
You know what I mean? The Pelembes were sitting on the bench when they shouldn't be. And soon after that, Zimbabwe saga we heard of, it went and there was match fixing things and Ian Goro was banned from football.
Now that you speak about it.
Do you think, when you mean, and I'm being honest here, because those are the facts.
Yeah.
And anybody can go back and look at that squad, look at how they played that entire season versus that last 6-7 games.
Yeah.
Come on, Tico, you were smart enough to put 1 and 1 together or think at least, guys, this doesn't make sense.
You know, at the time, Andile, my biggest focus was to win the trophy, because at the time I was labeled as a curse, a player that will never be able to win anything with the club. So that was my biggest focus. Even though, I've never in my career challenged any coach. I know there's always been about rumors about me fighting any coach. Any coach can tell you I've never challenged any coach. But for the first time in my career, I was very uncomfortable with the coach. And normally it's not because of the coaching style, because I know that we have senior players on the pitch who can fix if anything goes wrong.
On the field, yeah.
On the field. But I was very uncomfortable with the coach in a sense that we in the dressing room want to win this league, and we do have a potential to win this league. We've got the players. We've got no business not winning this league. And then all of a sudden you find players that are playing right back, they're playing in midfield. You've got midfielders that are sitting out.
Self-sabotage.
Yeah, and you get to the dressing room, you have a coach now that speaks Shona. He coaches in Shona, and then we go back and play. I'm not kidding you. His coaches in Shona, and then we go back.
How many people speak Shona in the dressing room?
I probably were 4 or 5, but all of them they're in the first. They're in the first team. They're starting. So for me, it was a problem, because now you have a team. You're a coach. Your responsibility is to coach everybody, playing or not playing, because all of us are in the same seat. We want to win this trophy, and we know the pressure that we have from the chairman himself, Patrice, to win this trophy. All of a sudden now you start. There were a lot of funny things that started happening.
To go 1+1.
Yeah, but Napoli 1+1 is a Spanish.
But in retrospect now, when you think, it was, thank you so much to Pro Pilani, Nadim, as well as Biso Snaps, it was Antonio Lopez.
Yeah.
That was the coach. Just before Ian, and then Nieskins, I think, then followed after. 1+1 here. And I looked at, after having, back then when you released your book, I went and I looked at those games, and I looked at the starting 11s, and I looked at what was happening from a winning position. The substitutions that would be made when you guys are leading made no sense to me, particularly when I'm like, why are there so many defenders playing in positions where they shouldn't be? Why are there strikers or forwards that, are in a good vein of form sitting back? No.
So basically, I could have won my first season at Mamelodi Sundowns, and for me, it pissed me off, and I felt as well, even in the second season when Niskin came through, I could feel it during the season that this is not the season for me to win, and also the pressure also outside and I started seeing the placards as well. Let me be mindful of this. Even the Sundowns fan, I started seeing those placards that we'll never win anything with Tico being here. There was I can only, and I remember I saw it as well, and when we saw it, all of us saw it because it was there. And I remember in the newspapers, I think a week later, whatever, that was there. Yeah.
I can only imagine, Teko, when you in the paper, when Andile, what in the papers already, like,
yeah, that's true.
And there it is, like in black and white or brown and black, it says, we'll never win anything with Teko here. Yeah,
it was back to square one, right? Especially after.
Do you cry yourself to sleep at home?
Yeah, I do. I did a lot of crying, so that's what I've cried enough.
No, rightfully so.
Yeah, I don't think I'll cry ever again. I cried enough, and those are the demons that I was dealing with. Kiliwan, I'm at home reading those type of things, seeing those type of things, and having to show up at training and smile, be able to do what I'm supposed to do. Come game time, you control the ball. You're playing against Orlando Pirates, wearing the Mamelodi Sundowns jerseys. You're being booed by both fans. it's not a nice feeling, because then it forces you to have a different character, but also you don't need to. And I felt like at time it was unfair, but also there's responsibilities that I need to take off. As Mamelodi Sundowns, I need to be able to perform. But that's why I'm saying, for me to transition to from Mamelodi Sundowns fan to see me as their own, trust me, it took a while.
There's something about Sundowns. You walk into Kloorkop and you see Mambush, you keep walking, you see Hlompo, you see Ezrom, you see Shai, you see Alex, you see all these players from the past. What is it about Sundowns' player aftercare? Because you hear players all the time talking about, hey, once you're done with this club, that's it. There is no aftercare. I can name 10, 15 ex-players that are working in Kloorkop.
I just hope that what Sundowns are doing can be copied by other teams as well. Because a lot of times when we're playing, we always feel like we've been prostituted. You just play after you're done playing, and then we move on to the next. With Mamelodi Sundowns, what they're doing is taking care of the players as well, finding space within the organization to slot them in and still be able to deliver what they're supposed to deliver. Because at the end of the day, we're footballers. We like football conversation. There's a lot that we can change in terms of that structure. And if you also employ football people in a football club, you stand to do well, because they're not going to speak from emotion, they're going to speak from facts. And exactly that's what Mamelodi Sundowns has done. And I just want to thank also the chairman for actually being brave enough to start doing that, because not every team actually does that.
There's so much to talk about, but we're never going to get through it. So I want to go to somebody that's gone through just a little bit. I mean, we've touched on such a little bit. It's already 1841. Your pillars of strength. One of them was a man that at some point you didn't see eye to eye, because when you were being Teko Modise, Jasmine didn't mean much to you at some points. At some points he made the world to you. Who is Jasmine to you? When you think back on Jasmine, when you talk about Jasmine, who's Jasmine to you?
Jasmine is a father that I never had. I think he was, as much as at times I didn't appreciate his presence, but he was at my corner at all times. And he has experienced my journeys, my ups and downs. I think Jasmine can write a book about the behavior that I had against him, because I'm a fighter myself. But I think I'm in this position as well because of Jasmine molded me so much, had so much patience with me. And I'm grateful for the fact that I worked with Jasmine for so many years. And people don't know, within the 13 years that I worked with Jasmine, we never had contract. We never signed anything on the dotted line.
Really?
Yeah. I worked with Jasmine because we had a goal. And the goal it wasn't based on a documentation that we had to sign. It's just that the trust that we have against each other and the loyalty that we had within each other. Yeah. I've
got him on the line now, because when he heard we're having this conversation, he said,
really?
I can't not.
Okay.
Jazz.
Never had contract.
He's busy listening on the radio clearly. Jazz. Tima ready your jazz. Well, I can tell you, Roring, one of the things he says is, you're the father he never had. I mean, I got so emotional when I heard him say that. You're the father he never had.
Yeah, firstly, I think, Andile, thank you so much for bringing General Donna Modise into the studio. I really, really appreciate what you've done for him. And I think, for me, the one thing that I never take for granted, and I never will, is having worked with a genius, a brilliant, intelligent player, Tico is. And I'm not talking from the football side. And I can tell you one thing, that for me, for the 13 years that we were together, became a special moment. And they were playing cup final, Supersport, Orlando Stadium, Sundowns and Supersport. And that day we had planned that this is the game you have to win. And then they lost. He sent me a message that says, this is the game I wanted to give you this medal to thank you. And that never happened. That day was like, I mean, there was won so many things beyond his career. But I just wanted to take this moment to thank you in particular, and thank Teko also as a footballer, as a man that he has become now. As a CEO, that people must know, he's the CEO of a company now. That means he has cut his teeth on a couple of things. And also thank Orlando Pirates, I mean, the same way that he has thanked them, and thank Sundowns and Cape Town City as well. because people don't know that when we transited from Sundowns to Cape Town City, it was a break point. Teko needed that because he was going to disappear in the cloud of shame. But Cape Town City gave us that he can retire with pride, which I think I don't take for granted as well. But more than anything, thank you, and I want to also thank SuperSport. I'm sorry for your competition, but
no, go for it.
For bringing an intelligent man like that, because I know people are eating in the palm of his hands.
Yeah, we slept on him. You know that. He came and I did the World Cup with him, and then we slept on him, so it's okay.
Absolutely. So I just think that this is the moment where 1 minute will not do justice for me to thank you and thank Tico for the years that you've been together, but for our ups and downs, for our not taking calls, for disappearing, and for buying Maserati and all those things.
Did you ever see the car? Did you ever see the car?
No, I never saw the car. I was just hearing, but he will never take my calls whether he knew what was coming his way. But what is more interesting is, I wanted to say this to Tico after listening to his interview tonight, that the man that he is today, he had to go through what he has gone through. It's not a mistake. It's 100%. Not a coincidence. What he is today, he had to go through that. And the reason why he's going to be beyond the people that he wanted to be like, he's going to be beyond them, is because what he has experienced, they've never experienced. And I think for that, he'll forever be probably the greatest, and you call it the GOAT. I'll say GOAT times for the generation that is to come. And watch the space. The coming few months, watch kids and the hairstyles. People's got a new dreadlock thing going on, but I think the whole country is going to go back to the same dreadlock thing. But I just thought I should just say thank you for the years that one has worked with Tico. I mean, whatever that you've gone through is like any other family. Families go through stuff, but the one thing that we stayed true to each other. He knew that I was true to him, honest to the core, and make sure that he get what is best for him. It's almost like a dream for me watching him on SuperSport analyzing, because we fought for that. It was like, this is what I want to do. And I think, among other things, he's got a dream to become something else there in that space, and I think he's going to achieve it with the fighter.
Oh, Jasmine, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming through. He mentioned something, and it's a story that I've heard for so long, and I never thought I was going to see you back at Sundowns in the capacity that you are as a Sundowns legend, because of the way you left.
Yeah.
Team was traveling, and you can correct me here, because this is how I know it. The team was traveling under Beats at the time. They were traveling to go play, I think, continental football. And you were supposed to have joined the team. You didn't. They didn't see you. And the relationship didn't end so well, and you showed up at Cape Town.
Yeah.
So because of that, I was like, how did he make his way back to Sundowns after that?
Yeah. And the thing is, like, when you look at it that way, it seems like I left Khumalo Sundowns. But honestly, it was a conversation that was happening behind closed doors. The thing was, I was so unhappy with myself, and because I've been in that space before, I didn't want to go back to what I was. So I had conversation with everybody, you Gash, everybody. I was having conversation with them. Guys, I need to leave. I want to leave. And at the time when the team was traveling to continental football, I was out of contract. And yet again, the team wants me to travel. So my question was, how can I travel with the team without a contract? What if something happens to me there? I get injured, and then what's going to happen then? So that, for me, I was just protecting myself at the time. And also because of the conversation that had been happening, so other people look at it as about the Sundowns, and that was not the case. But also the thing was, I wanted to be part of the team contributing. I don't want to sign and not play. I want to contribute towards the team's success. I still want to be part of the club. And also, at times, when you've hit the ceiling, and I think at the time at Sundowns, I actually felt like I've hit the ceiling. I needed a change of scenario would actually help me.
There's a man that you idolized, and he said, hey, Andile, you're having this conversation. Please let me say something. Have a listen to what Doctor said.
Good evening, guys, and good evening to your guest. I just want to echo a few sentiments about the guest that you're hosting tonight. A very prolific midfielder, a very knowledgeable player. It was interesting to watch Tico play, and coming from humble beginnings. And if you read his story, clearly Tico strived, to be the best in whatever he was doing in football. And that on its own, I'd like to believe that it's a motivation for the youngsters or any player or any inspiring player who wants to become an elite player. Tico's journey is not a marvelous one as any of the kids that probably made it to the pro side easy. I would like to believe that Tico has excelled in his performance when he was playing at Orlando Pirates. And believe it or not, it is not easy for a player to hop from one big team to another big team and continue excelling and making history, And I must say that Tico, the way he used to play, it was so unbelievable because he was so much a player that is not predictable. You wouldn't know what is next or what is it that he's going to do with the ball. But just to sum it up, this is a player, this is a friend, this is a colleague, and I must say that I'm so humbled that, Tico actually was looking at what I used to do on the field and off the field. And being his role model, for me, it humbles me. And I must say that I'm so pleased to have noticed or to have known that there is a young man out there that I actually motivated or maybe gave him a positive way of doing things. It is humbling. And Tico, I just want to wish you all the best of luck in your endeavors. You have excelled on the field and you are still excelling off the field. How are you carrying yourself in terms of what you do off the field of lately? It's something out of this world. And I hope and wish that some of the current players will be able to emulate what you are doing. And all the best of luck. They'll tell you who am I.
What do you think of the GOAT conversation? The greatest of all time South African player.
Andile, it's a dream come true. They became one when I shook his hands for the first time and actually told him in person what he meant to me when he was still playing. And also is one of the guys that I actually wrote about. And I didn't tell him that I was going to write a book.
A whole chapter, yeah.
Yeah, I spoke about him. And it's not a secret. What Doctor has done for South African football, I don't think anybody else can do it the way he did it. Of course, we can get inspired by what he has done and try to emulate, but with own personal style as well. But it's always going to be difficult. And all I wanted when I was still playing, when I was still looking at Doctor as to what is it that he was doing, all I wanted was, I always used to tell my friends that when I retire, I want to be named in the same conversation as Dr. Khumalo. I didn't know that actually was going to happen. And for the fact that Doctor can take out his time and be able to call in and speak about me, it is a dream come true.
The other GOAT conversation that happens is around you and Tembazwane at the moment.
Yeah.
So Temba and I had that conversation.
Really?
About, do you think, when you think of Tico, people are saying, hey, there's Doctor, but there's Temba versus Tico before Doctor. This is what Tembazwane had to say. Have a listen.
I actually reply actually I'm from Mama, I learned so much from Tico. Tico is the most relaxed player, And the other thing, like awareness, you always know what to do with the ball. Even though but you always know what's happening around him. So yeah, top player.
And then he goes on to say this about the comparison.
Yeah, it makes me happy, but I will still say that I'm not better than him because of I was learning from him. It's like my master. So I was busy learning from him, and he was always pushing me. So what I feel is I can't be better than him.
That's Tembazwane.
Wow. Shigabala
says that about you.
Yeah, man. Shiga, we are good. And I also just want to echo this, Andile. The relationship that I have with Mshishi is the relationship that I've tried with so many players within the PSL across, not just from a Sundowns perspective. Because I never had anybody to speak to me about the game itself. We don't have to speak about your personal life. But also being in a space that I'm at where I analyze games, I just want to speak to you about your game, help you to improve and help you to become a better player. I'm not saying what you mean I'm better than you. But it's just that at times players, they always this connotation with Moses or Khumalo, it's always something bad, and it's not. I just want to tell the players, if ever they're listening, when you want to talk to me, I'm always available for anybody, irrespective of what team you're playing for. I'm always available because I believe that I just want to see the product of the PSL.
Is there a coach coming?
No, bruh.
Because the way you're speaking and the way is there a coach in you? Do you think there's a coach somewhere in you?
There's maybe analyst of Khumalo, not the coach per se, and also just that Mshishi, man. Mshishi was just when we arrived. Here's the thing: when we were announced at Sundowns, I was with Mshishi. But nobody noticed Mshishi because of Teko Modise. We were sitting there at the press conference, both of us. We signed at the same time. Nobody noticed Mshishi. We only noticed Mshishi, the talent, first training session. And from there on, I became fascinated about how he plays. And of course, being a player that I was, I've always shared, even though we played more or less the same position, but I always shared. Now, mind you, we're still sharing notes. We're still comparing notes. We still talk about the game itself. So for him to actually say that, because I don't think it's also fair to compare how much generations are it's just let's just celebrate those ones are doing well, and Mshishi has been doing well. One of the most consistent player for the last 4 years. He's amazing.
One more other person. I have to. We always go a little bit personal here. Have a listen to this. Anytime, not to me.
There is a lot of things to say about you. I remember growing up, Khumalo and Srilebana, and you were a naughty kid. Your friends threw you in a rubbish dump with hot coals that bent your leg. I carried you in my bag for about 3 kilometers to the clinic for treatment because we didn't have taxi fares and you were in so much pain. That right there is love. I watch you do what you love the most, which is kicking the ball. I was there to watch you day in, day out. I was your number one fan and supporter. Actually, I still am. I'm very proud of your achievements. You keep shining and rising. You keep doing great things for yourself. I thank God for your talent. I love you and I always have your back.
Yeah, that's my sister right there. Yeah, now it becomes emotional. Andile and I'm fit. Hi.
That is love if I've ever heard of it.
Yeah, man. Actually, my sister was very supportive. The first, let me say this, the first brand new pair of shoes was given to by my sister. The first family member to watch me play, even from the dusty street, was my sister. The first official PSL game to actually watch me was my sister. When I didn't have a place to stay, I used to stay at my sister's house. My sister, just like how Jasmine was, my sister still is a mother to me, and she'll forever be. And I thank God for her, for all the things that she has done for me. And I don't think there's anything that I'll do for her that will actually amount to what she has done for me. She was the only person in my family that I knew actually believed in me. Even though I moved around, not knowing where my parents was, my sister was the only person that would actually visit to where I was staying. The love that I have with my sister, the relationship that I have with my sister just goes deeper than just being sister and a brother.
Tico, I told you, there's no ways we could ever tell your entire story. Look at that, the hour's up. We didn't even
we need
get an opportunity. We need a 3 hour. I've got the Sundowns jersey on me now.
Yes.
You're wearing one there as well. We saw it come out. Very light, very nice.
Yeah.
Sundowns this season. People are not happy with how they've started so far. Your thoughts? They won the games, but they're like, that magic still not there. Your thoughts on the season? I
think it's the beginning of the season. No player is 100% fit. And you look at Mamelodi Sundowns, how they try to play this season is totally different. So it's going to lead a little bit of adjustment, especially with the integration of the players. But it's also nice to build on to a team also that also collect points. If you look at Mamelodi Sundowns, how they started last season, it was more or less way less than the way they started right now. They were in 4 points, now they're in 6. So it's still early start, but also being a most dominant team, obviously there's always pressure to you to do well. And I think Mamelodi Sundowns perform better under pressure. And I'm impressed with the way things are going. And I'm also impressed as to how Coach Lan is evolving the club, evolving the system, the formats, the patterns that they're doing. So it's going to be very interesting to see how teams are going to cope with Mamelodi Sundowns this season.
Ribeiro, you like him?
Ooh.
Okay. It's almost top of the hour. I wish we could, but we've only got an hour, ladies and gentlemen, and the conversation needed to happen. But like I said, in 2 years from now, I'll be a year from now on Teko's door again saying, hey, let's take another bite of this conversation because there's so much to it. This amazing jersey is going to go to somebody out there. We'll talk about it on our platform. And yeah, we'll make sure, because I mean I'm getting some for my kids as well, because they do have them in kids, so that's gonna happen.
And it's also available.
Well. Oh, it's available. When does it come out? When does the jersey come out?
It's available from tomorrow.
From tomorrow, it's available in stores tomorrow. They can go and buy it.
Yes.
Were you surprised to see so many Sundowns fans, almost overwhelming Chiefs fans?
No, I wasn't surprised at all. I think that's what
support.
Yeah, but that's what
support.
No, we do, because also I've seen you know what I've loved seeing is like Mamelodi Sundowns now starting to have young people as supporters. When I was still playing, it was just Mahot manager. Now we've got young kids that actually start supporting the team. That's what you need for longevity of the fans for the club, and that's very, very brilliant that Mamelodi Sundowns is doing that.
You know, I've got a voice note, and it's from Lucas Khate, and I know he wants to say something to you. But I'm going to take a risk. If Taru's saying things he shouldn't be saying.
To Teko, I think you can see with his career he's flourished, and you know, not a lot of players you find that they've got a brain like he has. You know, with the football brain in the field of play. I mean, the general is absolutely fantastic, achieved well in both teams, but the work he does off the field, it's absolutely amazing. And what he became as well, you can see that he was very brainy. He's one of those players that we respect, you know, of his work, his influence, you know, to the young and up-and-coming footballers. And that's a great example of making a career out of football and having come from where you're from after what you've gone through, you know, in life. And to achieve that, I think most of the aspiring players and current players, they should take a leaf out of his career and he himself as a person, you know, how he holds himself, especially out and about. And it's a great player and fantastic human being. And I think he deserves the flowers, man. He's one of those players who are a great example to South African football.
That's Lucas Khate.
Oh,
ladies and gentlemen, Donna, Rao, the General.
Thank you, man.
Teko Modise. One day we'll have you back here, and we'll tell more stories about you.
No, I also just want to thank you, man, for what you're doing for South African football. I listen to your shows. Just want to thank you.
I appreciate you, man. It's 3 after the hour 7. Everybody in the studio, it's never been this silent. I appreciate you. Pella, manso me.